welcome to another episode of Humans Beyond MBBS. Doctors who apparently resounded clinical practice to touch many more lives and impact humanity in much better ways. Today I have with me Dr. Ritu Mithil Garg, better known as Ritu Ma'am. She holds the reins of one of the most prestigious hospitals, FMRI, Fortis Memorial Research Institute in Gurgaon, and previously has donned many hats in corporate world of Fortis Healthcare and Sakara Healthcare. I know her since she was handpicked by Mr. Daljit Singh from Indian School of Business as the future of Fortis Healthcare and one who was the power behind the CEO of this conglomerate. Ritu, a proud alumnus of LHMC, Lady Hardinge Medical College, also holds a degree in ENT MS from the same institutes. Mom Ritu is a proud mother of two and juggles to make the best of both the worlds, which is so evident when I see her Diwali pictures adorning her dear home. Welcome, Ritu. Well, let's hear from the lady herself. Ritu, your story from your voice.
Hi, Gaurav. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be on this show. Thank you very much. So yes, I think it's been a journey, more than a decade now. Ever since childhood, I've always been wanted to be a doctor. So that was an easy choice. When I think in India, when children choose to be doctors, it just takes away a lot of burden from parents' head. Theek line pe hai. So kind of make it easy for them. So I got through Lady Hardinge Medical College, had a fantastic stint there, then joined MSENT just straight out of MBBS. So didn't really have any pause pretty much. Just got married while doing my MS. And then continued as a senior resident. So 12 years in medical school. And then something hit me. So I'll talk about later what hit me. But I kind of one fine day decided to do an MBA. So landed up in ISB Hyderabad. Again, I think it was a transformational year for me. As clinician, we are groomed in a certain way. Our infrastructure, the way our studies are, is groomed in a certain way. It's very disciplinarian. It is very hierarchical. That's what the medical core clinical structure is, because that's what you need. It's pretty much like being on the war front, right? So when you're in the OR, you need one in charge. You don't need democratic opinions. So that is what, in my view, the clinical studies are all about. So when I stepped into ISB, there was a different world altogether. So I had friends from media, I had friends from different industries. It was an eye-opener. But it was also an amazing place for me to be who I am and rediscover myself. There was, for elections, there was a healthcare club. We did some great, industry events. There was a whole lot of enthusiasm in and out of the class. So overall, a great year. Did some B-school competitions, went to Berkeley, went to Seattle, presented some business cases. So it was quite a transformational journey for me. From being a clinician to a little bit more rounded personality-wise. And then luckily got picked from campus, joined Fortis. At that time, Fortis was all over the newspapers for the right reasons. I think we were on the cover page of every newspaper. The Wockhardt acquisition had happened. After Apollo, that was the big thing in corporate healthcare. And I think that was also one of the reasons for me to make that shift. Joined Fortis, had a great privilege to be welcomed with open arms. Also given a lot of opportunity within the system. I think I've had the opportunity to run operations. So started with running my first stint in escorts. Gaurav, I joined as Fortis Senior Manager Operations in Fortis Escorts Heart Institute. A dynamic, a big institute of its own with a huge legacy. I remember my first assignment was in supply chain. I was replacing a gentleman who was maybe 20 years older than me. And when I walked for the first time, I didn't know what the full form of PO is. I didn't know what a purchase order meant. So it was for me a new beginning. But again, I think a fantastic team. They all stood by me. They all, we all worked together, brought in a little bit modernization of processes, moved to central pharmacy, brought in, the concept of inventory days, reorder level. So all those newer modern concepts were brought in. So it was quite satisfying. And then the CEO of Fortis Healthcare said, okay, operations, why don't you come and join me? So I joined the CEO office. Just as I joined, I think a few months later, he decided to quit. And here I am. I said, okay, I was running operations very nicely. And I've now started to get the strategic bent of mind, and you quit. But again, that also was a great opportunity. I was running a CEO office de facto because we didn't have a CEO for 6 months. So that meant that, so we created something called a very strong CEO office. Everything maneuvered through that, and it had its own learning. It was an amazing, it helped me, have strong concepts and changes and leadership learnings from the best in the healthcare. So as I always say that, I'm from a village where I've been groomed by the best in the healthcare. So that happened. And then the new CEO joined. So we did all that onboarding. And then I was given the role of head of strategy for the group. Again, it was also one of the expansion eras for Fortis, very interesting. We were, I think, opening new hospitals month on month, a lot of energy, dynamism. All that happened. But then I think in 2014, I had already spent 5 years. I felt that I needed to get exposed to something beyond it, that, I was getting into the comfort zone. One of the mantras that for me has been that, what worries me most is stagnation. That makes me restless. That makes me, wanting to shake myself out of the comfort zone. So with that, there was this opportunity that came in by Toyota Kirloskar. There were lofty plans of expanding to 20,000 beds. Seemed very interesting. So I took the plunge, amidst a lot of, I would say, concerns, and a lot of the entire Fortis leadership wanted me to stay, but I think I did want to make on my own. So I went and joined Sakra, heading their expansion for the country. But as they say, all things don't go as well. So I think the plans changed, and they decided not to expand. And then I had a very brief stint. So I was talking to one of the managing partners of a search firm. And she said, Ritu, why don't you just come and set up healthcare practice for me? I was like, look, I have no idea about search business. She said, you don't have to, just come. So I did join her. And again, very exciting. My first assignment on the search business, as I may call it, was actually for a very upcoming large solar panel firm. That was my induction. Ended up with a very good senior leadership position closure. Also started bringing in something in the healthcare space, because this concept is not very evolved in healthcare space. Whereas there is a talent crunch. I mean, we all know that healthcare is hardly any talent. So it did make sense. So I was enjoying that, doing that well. And then got a call back from Fortis, and they said, look, we are looking to establish a clinician engagement vertical for the group. We want to marry the structure and bring in the structure to the talent management. So I rejoined back in 2016, back home. This time heading the clinician engagement for Fortis Group. So again, a great journey. It was, so we mapped the entire clinical talent for the country, region by region. We mapped what is it that we need, what do we want to strengthen. It was again a very strategic role, because in the end, healthcare industry, I think getting the medical programs right and identifying the talent to drive those medical programs, these are the two key things. They decide pretty much everything. So that's what I started doing, was doing well, more roles got added. I was anointed as the head of patient experience as well, academics, research, all that happened. And then 3 years later, FMRI happened. Again, FMRI was going through a bad phase. We had some marred public perception. There was some media noise. There were corporate, issues. So it was actually at its lowest ebb. But again, so I got the opportunity, so I grabbed it and landed in FMRI. First day of FMRI, baptism by fire, happened in police station. But again, what a warmth. I think eventually, within a week, I think the kind of welcome and the kind of support that all the clinicians and the team on ground extended was overwhelming. It really was. So we all brainstormed how to get back FMRI to its feet. Step by step, what were the issues, how do we change it? Because a lot of it was perception. There was no truth in it. It was somehow, not getting the right platform to say who we are. So we built that back, so a lot of senior clinicians joined us. Many senior clinicians have joined over the last 3 years. I think our perception in the public mind got changed. We got a lot of transparency in. And so 3 years going strong, so far so good.
Great. And Ritu, your story has really highlighted a lot of common points. So I have been visiting LHMC in my childhood because my mom, she was HOD pathology for years. And I still remember that I used to visit the staff quarters in LHMC, and that's where I knew LHMC. And I completely agree that in college, maybe we are taught not to question the integrity or whatever is being taught. I think that's where we are taught that how to go to the war front in OR, where you do not question the why of everything, which is very different when you come to the MBA school. And I agree that it's a totally different world of PPT and Excel, जो medical में कभी नहीं पढ़ाया जाता, right?
Exactly.
They never tell you what is the what is the Excel, and what is the PPT, which we all learn now. And I remember my FEHI days, Fortis Scott Hart Institute, where we had a common mentor in Dr. Singhal, and then you were handpicked by Bhavdeep Singh sir, BDS, as we all know you. And my favorite memory of you being in CO office is that when I was selected as a FD and I called you, Ritu, mera na organization announcement nahi gaya. And you were so prompt in getting that announcement, sending in the next half an hour. Very simple, very small action, but it speaks so much of you when you are in that position of repute, where such things matter a lot, but maybe not to you, but to people at large. And I completely agree that filling into the footsteps of FMRI was not easy. It was a dream hospital, Shivinder's dream hospital, Dr. Chodadia, Dilpreet, definitely Simar, Jasdeep, all the people we know now at very senior positions in healthcare. But I must say, you have done a phenomenal job, especially in the COVID times when I worked so closely with you. So a fantastic journey, Ritu. But what made it happen? What was that hitting point?
So, the only thing was I was on my maternity leave. Okay. So what happened was that, so I had covered my baby, and I was sitting at home, and this is the first time, believe me, first time that I was at home. I've never had a drop year. It's very common in medical world, but I've never had it. So it was my first time that I'm at home while nursing my baby for 3 months. At that time, maternity leave was 3 months, and I just happened to meet somebody in one of the common parties, and that person told me that they've got doctors in ISP, and I was like, oh really, is it? And he's like, yeah, and I said, okay, why don't you connect me to one? And I connected to one, and it just sounded exciting. At that time, as I was saying, that suddenly the healthcare was the talk of the town. There's so much happening, and I said, okay, look, I've done my ENT. I'm married to a plastic surgeon. Okay, so we anyways have 2 surgeons at home. So I said, okay, 2 surgeons doing their private practice, seems a little, I think we need some different flavor. And it just happened like that, nothing else. I said, okay, then I was wondering, okay, which MBA, I've got a baby, I've got to nurse the baby. I said, okay, I can't do 2 years. That would be a little too much away from home. So, okay, let me just do 1 year. So I applied, I gave my GMAT, I took my GMAT, and thankfully this course was pretty good. Now I didn't want to go abroad, so ISB was the only choice, and I only applied to ISB. I wasn't even sure whether I'll get a call. It's almost like, okay, I wanted to pass time, so I just took GMAT, give the exam, and then applied, and I did get a call. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just a call, I hadn't made up my mind. I went there, and got through. And frankly, by that time, I hadn't really made up my mind. It was just that, yeah, I want to try that out. But when it happened, and by then Kavish was 1 year, it was 1 year when I got the confirmation. It was a big decision, it meant leaving my son behind for a year. And I think that was the toughest call. But then I thought that if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And I'm blessed with an extremely supportive family. So everybody said, okay, yeah, we can. So I just went there. And it was, in that sense, a difficult one. So my son used to think that I live in the airport. I used to come every 6 weeks. So he would, drop me in the airport every 6 weeks. I would come for 5 days every term break. I would choose my electives so that I always had those 5 days in my term break. Yeah. So frankly, it was just a mat leave. And so much so that, I was having my second baby. My husband wasn't sure whether I'd go somewhere else. And he was like, I hope you're not planning anything this time. So, yeah.
No, I think that's something which I think we men never realize, right? You, the lady power behind you, and I've seen that in my mom, and I've seen that in my sister. The way you are able to juggle out the best of the both worlds, it's so amazing. But Ritu, tell me, many people have asked me, तुमने ना medical की एक seat waste कर दी. Have ever you been faced by that question, and how do you think that you have the impact which you have made in the work you have done is much more being an ENT surgeon?
So yeah, I'm asked that question, very commonly. Once also by a joint secretary. I was meeting her in, foreign services, and here she says, "Oh, you wasted a seat." I said, "No, I haven't wasted a seat." And as you said, I think, Gaurav, what we bring to the table is a much needed gap between a clinician and an administrator, and a management. See, there's a point of view which is valid on both the sides, and I think the kind of bridging that we are able to do because we are a clinician is immense. I think, a non-clinical administrator always have to face that bar. Tumhe kya pata? You've never been there. It's difficult for people to tell me that. And thankfully, it's a decent college, ranked well, so they understand I've slogged. So it's not that I haven't, right? And I think they're also extremely comfortable. Another thing that I've realized is that, for a practicing doctor, the trust that a practicing doctor in a specialty gathers in an administrative position is not as much as a non-practicing clinician. So while, yes, you are a clinician, they understand that. But again, you're not on their toes, right? Because you're managing your business from a distance. And that gives them a lot more comfort. So I have, privilege. I'm a very good friends with many of our senior doctors, and that is aged from 20 to 67, 70 years as well. And we are able to connect on some level for sure. Or our very respected senior clinicians, it's more about mentoring. They're going to talk about, what they do in medical college and the way, you can connect with them. Many of their children are, pursuing medical studies. So that forms another level of a connect. And then, of course, there are junior guys, who are now just joining, getting out of their medical colleges, they reach out. So for us, I think being a clinician is the core of what we're trying to do, right? The kind of trust that we are able to bring to the table, and I think bridge the gaps makes me feel that what I have done is not gone waste. I don't think I would have been able to do that was I not a clinician. Yes, I would have been able to run a healthcare business because that's business. But would I have been able to make a good healthcare system, talk about medical programs, build that up if I wasn't a clinician? Maybe not as much as I can now.
I completely agree, and I always tell people that then the first layer is that you were an MBS. Rather, when I go to many of the MBA schools now, mostly what I see is this BDS candidates who are doing MBA. So MBA is a rarity, and an MD or a MS MBA is a very very rare. And I remember that this was a conscious decision which was taken at the topmost level in Fortis, where they wanted doctors like you, Manish, Dr. Naraini, to head these positions, and very successfully today also, just to bridge that gap. Because when I was handling a hospital, I really used to feel कि यार ये नहीं बोलेगा कि इसको पता नहीं है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ. ये वो एक्सेल वाला एमबीए वाला बंदा नहीं है जिसको ये नहीं पता कि करते क्या है, राइट? And I remember my boss always telling me, take out that time to have a coffee with the doctor. Once you're having a coffee with the doctor, do not talk business, and business will flow. So I think that we all have ingrained, and we all have practiced in our, but definitely. But how are you impacting lives at large? What do you think that your role is impacting lives at large?
Um, See, in a healthcare space, I think the ways to impact lives are two ways. One is that you're able to touch as many as possible. So how do you reach out to a person who doesn't have access, who doesn't know about those programs? And second is to deliver the best in the world. In this country, in this space. And if you are able to marry the two, I think the impact is there. So the kind of programs that we have built, let me talk about bone marrow transplant program. 4 years ago, we didn't have a bone marrow transplant program. And today we do not have a bed in a bone marrow transplant unit. And that is because, I see so many small, and we do both adult and children BMTs. And we have patients now from interiors of India, from Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, UP, everywhere, and also the kids from Afghanistan, Africa, everywhere coming in and coming for such niche programs. And it's not easy to run these programs. It is demanding, because you're talking about severely immunocompromised. You're talking about holding their hand for months on together. This is not like one simple surgery, which can be done in any nursing home. That's not what it is. It is far more complex. It is far more multidisciplinary. It needs lot of rigor, at the unit level. And again, we are very, very blessed to have amazing, amazing clinicians. I think they inspire me every day. Every day I meet all of them, and it is just so inspiring the way they are. So much of self-motivation and so much of hard work. And when I see them, I still realize that none of the other corporate professionals, however hard it may be, comes close to the kind of difficult lifestyle that they have. Not only do they have to be constantly there, accessible to their patients, listen to the family issues, do clinically best every single day. And that is what makes it so difficult. When you're an accountant, one day you might have a wrong Excel sheet. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, you might delay, yes, you have a work pressure, but at best, you will delay a deadline. Yeah, you will do your submissions a day later, maybe 2 days later. But for a surgeon or a clinician, you have to perform every single day. You have no room for error. And the slightest mistakes that they do it takes a whole lot of effort to get that right. And that also means that we also have to be on our toes every day. We have to make sure, and we haven't got it perfect. Nobody has. The nature of being dependent on so many people, right from a GDA to a nurse to a security guard, to everybody, to a technician, we all are a team. And getting that whole orchestra run in like a symphony, to the T 24/7 is utopian. It breaks, some string breaks sometime. Somebody will go out of that rhythm. And then, to identify that, get back into the rhythm, I think that's what we do. So everybody has got a role to play, but getting them together is what is challenging and exciting at the same time. But a lot of it is also internally driven. It's amazing to see the overall energy. We've just got Dr. Clay joined us in a cardiology. I mean, he is so full of energy. He will like walk up at 4 a.m., do a 50-kilometer cycling, take a 5 a.m. flight, do an OPD, come back in the hospital still at 9, will work it till 9. You meet him and you are so full of wanting to do so much more and make sure that it's smooth for him. So yeah,
I totally agree. I remember Dr. Claire from my Amritsar days when he used to come to Fortis Amritsar for his OPDs, and definitely his energy is so inspiring. But Ritu, you have been into corporate roles also. You have been into unit roles also, right? And I tell you, when I was in a unit, my feeling was always, यार इनको क्या पता है कि यहाँ पे क्या होता है, right? हमें पता है ना, हम रोज पेशेंट से बात कर रहे हैं, कमाते तो हम है ना at the end of the day. And when I now run an organization, I am on the other side. I am on the corporate side, and I have unit heads who are like in the battlefront every day. What role do you enjoy more?
Look, operations is definitely more gratifying. It is more satisfying. It is more tangible. It is more impactful, no doubt about that, at least at the unit level. Having said that, I think beyond a point, it's very also important to keep a strategic vendor time. The only thing that at the operations head and running a large PL, I have to keep in mind is that I have to think about today, but I also have to think about tomorrow. And because I've spent many years in corporate and also as a head of strategy, I think that has come in handy because that feeling at the back of my mind is always there. That operations is not just about today, and striking a balance about yes. So every year, my endeavor has always been that while we'll plan for this year, but there's always some room that we have to do for invest for the next year. Look, we do not have an R&D budget like most pharmaceutical companies do. Yeah, but we need to definitely keep some point for investing in the new program, and that's the only way to do it. So be it, let's say, unique programs like a pediatric hepatology or an interventional radiology. Those are not the traditional programs. Somebody has to think about them and start investing on them now with an idea that 2 to 3 years it will grow.
Completely agree again. They say that this is the three-box strategy where you have to not only get engrossed in your own operations, regular operations, but also think about the future. And I think that is a big blend of corporate and operations which we see in you. So how difficult it is to juggle the heads of Ma'am Ritu and Mom Ritu?
It is a little challenging, but I think in my view, the only way is to get one side have a glimpse of the other. What it means is that my children know about my work. They know who are my colleagues. They know who does what. They have been to my office. They have been to my college, my office and the hospital. So they understand what I do. And in a way, they get involved in finding some pride. In my house, like this green pair of hands is sacred. So that pride about what we do kind of translates to the home, and then they become partners in your own growth and success. That's important. Similarly, my colleagues know about my family. They know about my children. They know what's going on in a way, and I think that little bit of an extension of on either side is very important to make it a little holistic. Look, there will always be weeks where your work is more demanding, right? I mean, if we're going through a crisis, we are going through a crisis. I won't be able to come home on time. And children understand that as long as they know what is it that I'm doing. So my daughter, she's 8 years, and many times she would ask me, what do you do? And, so I've kind of explained this is what I do. And now she gets it. And then there will also be times when your home needs you more. And in which case, having that comfort that you can manage from home and your colleagues will, and we have to do it for each one of our colleagues. That's the only way to live a balanced life. It's not just about, the work stops at 5 and life starts at 5. It can't work that way.
Very interesting. That concept of making work your extended family and family your extended work It's very, very interesting. And I believe COVID has, except for the hospitals, COVID has dissolved these boundaries between work and home. Hence, people have now started balancing out the both. So Ritu, I think we both were very lucky that we found our niche beyond clinical practice. But there are thousands of these youngsters, or maybe who have done their MBBS, done their MD, and still want to do that different thing which we did. But they're so much, I would say, shy to tread onto that uncharted territory. What is your message for these people?
I think that my message is you have to understand what is it that you're seeking, and also have pros and cons of both. What happens is that sometimes the decision is based on a little bit unrealistic expectation and wanting to seek the safety of a salary package, and that is not the right way to do it, because no one can guarantee. So many people do reach out to me and they say that, look, I want to, after my MBBS, I want to do this, but tell me 1 saal ke baad mera kitna salary package hoga. I can't tell you. Look, I don't know, because salary package is not about the MBA. Salary package is about who you are, and how do you utilize what you learned, and how do you grow, and how do you create your own value. I think all of us have to do that all the time. It's never given. We all have to be able to give that value to the organization, in whichever role, be a clinician or the otherwise. So my message to all of you, everybody else who's wanting to explore, is that do explore. It is interesting. There is a lot more that you can do, especially now with med tech, health tech, insurance. I think the healthcare, the kind of impetus that COVID has given, is we will see the fruit of it maybe in 2-3 more years, because I know that if we had like hundreds of startups last year before COVID, we now have probably a zillion. And out of those, there will be unicorns. There will be people who will transform. There will be people who will create impact. And if you're one of them, or if you join that journey, I think that is absolutely amazing. But yes, do it with an open eyes. Do it with the idea that that journey in itself is very exciting and fruitful, and what you make out of it is your call. And you will have to churn and give in your bit to be able to make that worthwhile.
Yeah, so the message I carry is it's all about the journey and not the destination, right? So thank you, Ritu. Thank you so much for being on this show. Thank you for inspiring many lives. You're doing a fantastic job. God bless you, and keep on doing the good work. Thank you so much, Ritu.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, bye.